Today's conversation is sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners. If you're an accredited investor and you want to find out more about investment opportunities, go to firstgencp.com/invest.
I remember looking at my business partner and saying, we can't do this. If we are going to make this investment, then we're going to make sure that we are providing a decent place for people to live.
You're listening to the Going Long podcast with Billy Keels, the #1 podcast for long-distance real asset investing.
Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. And yes, I am your host, Billy Keels, and I'm super excited to welcome you back to another conversation because every single one of these conversations is fantastic. Today is absolutely going to be one of those where you need to get out your pen, your pencil, your iPad, whatever it is you can write on, take copious notes and be ready to talk about this one with your family and friends. So listen, with that, yes, week after week, we continue to move up the charts. Absolutely phenomenal. Really appreciate each and every one of you that is taking just a couple of seconds to leave your honest written review as well as a rating because it's helping a lot. You're also giving us the things that you like, the things that you'd like to see us change, the things that are going to help to also attract the best guests for you so that you get the insight that you can take action on and get closer to your goals even that much faster. So, and we got one or two other things that will be coming up very, very soon. So just keep listening, keep watching. Also, if you want to check out previous episodes of the podcast because they're no longer on your favorite platform, just go to billykeels.com. Screen's going to change just for a second. And then when it does, you can go find out every single one of the episodes. It is there under the podcast tab and it will be absolutely phenomenal. So you can check that out. And then also too, listen, if you are someone who is an accredited investor, you want to hang out with other accredited investors, you want to gain access to some pretty interesting, very positively interesting opportunities, this is a place for you to be. So send an email to aiclub@billykeels.com. Once again, that's aiclub@billykeels.com. We can connect and you can find out more about this accredited investor club. So with that, today is really for those of you who are trying to figure out how do you win at work and win at home, how this winning mindset is also going to be the way that is going to allow you to not just create paths and streams of income for you today. It is going to create the generational wealth and freedom that you are looking for. Today, we have a PhD who's going to share his insights and how he's helping busy, high-paid professionals win at work and at home. In just a couple seconds, we're going to hear from Dr. James Bryant, and we're going to get to that just after this. Are you a busy, high-paid professional, someone who's made $200,000 the previous 2 years and also expected to earn $200,000 this year? Or maybe as a couple, you filed jointly and you've earned $300,000 the previous 2 years and also expected to earn $300,000 together this year. Or maybe yourself or as a couple, you have $1 million in net worth, not including your home. Well, if you meet any of those criteria, then the IRS considers you to be someone who is an accredited investor. And so that probably means you're a top producing software sales executive, or maybe you're a highly paid consultant. Maybe you're a lawyer. Maybe you're a doctor or a business owner. You may even work for a professional sports franchise. Well, one way or the other, you've done a lot of really hard work to get to where you are. You've done 100% of the work. And nowadays you're continuing to get crushed by taxes. And that means you're only bringing home 50% of the reward. If you're tired of doing this over and over and you're looking for a solution to start to keep more of your money, you can go to firstgencp.com/invest so that you can start to keep more of your money, which means that you can start to have the freedom to choose what you want to do, when you want to do it, with whom you want to do it. So once again, go to firstgencp.com/invest to see how we can start to help you today. Once again, that's firstgencp.com/invest. You know what? If you want to know how to engineer your success in long distance investing by having the right mindset, then guess what? Today's the conversation that you're going to want to listen to until the very last word. You know why? Well, because today's guest not only is a John Maxwell certified leadership trainer, speaker, and coach. Check this out. He also had started his professional career as a project engineer. He's had key roles for the Department of Transportation in the state in which he lives, and I'm sure he was going to tell us more about that. I don't want to give all the secrets away. He also has been in the role of senior program officer, has teams that are responsible for maintenance as well as preservation, and he's going to talk to us more about what's going on in transportation and a lot of other things. And you know what? This gentleman even is a PhD in civil engineering. And also, this is super important, everybody. Get your pen out. He is the host of the super popular podcast, Engineer Your Success. It gives me great pleasure to welcome the man who is going to help you win not only at work, also at home, Dr. James Bryant. James, welcome to the show, man.
Billy, what's up, man? I'm so excited to be here. I want to thank you for the invitation.
What do you mean, man? Absolutely. There's so much value that everybody here as part of the Going Long family is going to learn and take in today. It's absolutely privileged that you've decided to be here with us, invest your time. And I'm so excited. I'm ready for everybody to get a chance to get to know you. So I think one of the things.
Let's get rolling, man.
Yeah. We're going to do that. One of the things that we talked about pre-recording was the fact that I like to ask everybody the same 5 questions, at least 5 questions. You're going to get 2 in the beginning. You're going to get 3 at the end. You're also going to get a lot of other questions, James, in the middle. I just don't know what those questions are yet. So, I know you're used to dealing with me. So here we go. Question number 1 is, can you help us understand where is it that you live in the United States?
I live in Richmond, Virginia.
Fantastic. And I think that's over there on the right-hand side of the United States.
Yeah, it's on the East Coast. I'm about 90 miles south of Washington, D.C.
Okay, fantastic. So you're helping everybody who's outside of the U.S. understand exactly where that is. So fantastic. Yeah. The other thing is, James, could you help us understand what's the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
Besides being here on the Going Long podcast and talking to you, I would say the most positive thing that has happened in the last 24 hours is that this weekend, my wife and my 2 boys, James and Nathaniel, we participated in the Aqua Zumba class. And so we got together as a family and went to the Y and did a nice, really good aerobics class. And if I had to choose another thing, it would be this morning at 5:45 a.m., I participated in my first cycling class. And let me tell you, a cycling class is much harder than just riding your bike or riding the exercise bike at a leisurely pace, because the instructor's there and they're like, you want to pedal faster, more resistance, out of the saddle, into the saddle, keep going. It was a great, exhilarating experience.
Well, I love that. Number 1, that it was something that was new that you started this morning in terms of the class, picking up new language, also understanding like this new intensity, and also the fact that you got super quality family time. That's always amazing that you had a chance to do that. So I appreciate you sharing those 2 things, and also being able to spend some time here with me and the Going Long family is always awesome. So, but here's the thing, James, and I started this not too long ago. I you know me just a little bit, right? And that I sometimes try to keep the bar kind of high. And that makes me do things like try and tell like super impactful people like you, try and tell your entire backstory in like 2.5 seconds. And not going to happen ever. But, I got to keep the bar high. So here's the thing. I try it, and hopefully you'll forgive me for trying to do that and condense it all. But more importantly, if you can help me. Because the thing is, I would love for you to tell your backstory in your own words, so that the Going Long family gets a chance to get to know you. And also, if you could do me one other favor, which is talk to us about the major decisions or that you've made up to this point in your journey, and then we'll see where you and I take the conversation from there.
Okay. Wow. So how far back do you want me to start here, Billy?
Well, let's see how much time we have. Well, you tell, and then we'll figure it out. Don't worry.
Okay. Well, what I'll do is I'll talk about my present, and then we can delve back into the past and kind of go back and forward. And of course, you can interrupt and ask questions as needed. In terms of my real estate investing, I'm part ownership of about 4 complexes. We just sold one, so now that's 3 complexes. Most of those are in Greensboro, North Carolina, which is about 3.5 hours away from here. There was one complex that we owned here in Richmond. I started investing in real estate about 4.5 years ago. And so 4.5 years ago, one of my good friends became a business partner. We started investing in real estate and properties, and pretty much every project that he's been a part of, I have been a part of. And we've been moving in that journey. So I've been doing that. the reason that I wanted to do it is to really build wealth and to build generational wealth for my family. That's the main thing. So that's kind of the real estate piece to kind of give a context in terms of the investing that I've been doing. But now more about my story. I also have a peak performance coaching company and leadership training company, Engineer Your Success, LLC, where my goal is to help engineers win at work and at home. That's the main thing, is that you can meet people that are winning at work. I mean, they're killing it. They're doing great. They're getting bonuses. They are on a rising star within their organization, but they look at their relationships. They look at how they spend their time. They may look at their health. They may look at their family, and things aren't quite what they need to be. And so I'm here to help people kind of bridge that gap so that they can win in both places. And you also, Billy, have people that are doing great at home, right? They're doing great at their home life, but they need some training and some coaching on how to be a better leader at work, how to learn how to be a better communicator, how to learn how to be a better delegator. And so we fill that gap as well. So I'm all about winning at work and at home. More about my background. I do have a PhD in civil engineering, and I'm a professional licensed engineer in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I've been in the highway maintenance and transportation area for well over 20 years, both experience on the ground level. When I say the ground level, I'm talking litter removal, removing dead dogs off the road. Yes, I have a PhD. I was out there with the road crews, moving things off the road, managing paving projects, anything that I could do to kind of grow in my ability to lead the people that I was going to lead. I think I needed to connect with them. And so that's what I did. And then, further beyond that, I'm originally from Philadelphia. So I'm a Philadelphia guy and love Philadelphia, but now I live in Richmond, Virginia with my lovely wife and my 2 kids.
Fantastic, man. So there's so many different things we could talk about, but one of the things you started off in the very beginning, you were talking about your lovely wife and your 2 kids, and you just wrapped things up about talking about your lovely wife and your 2 kids. And as you took us through part of what you are doing in terms of building generational wealth with real estate, and that's one of the places that you start. I think there's a number of different things because it speaks to so many people that are here, right? That are busy, high-paid professionals, and that's what everybody's trying to do. You try to do these things, but there's only 24 hours in a day, and there's only 7 days in a week, and so it's a matter of I really would love for you to kind of help us understand how are you allowing others to recognize what it is that they need to do so that they can feel comfortable, confident in being able to win at work as well as at home to feel much more fulfilled. But before we go there, and that's probably where we spend the majority of our time, one of the things when we talk to somebody who is a PhD, scholarly, that has the understanding, the theoretical knowledge. You've also been on the front lines where you are to have the not just the theoretical knowledge, but also the practical knowledge, understand how things are working. You've done that tends to follow, people would say an engineer follows a particular path, but you've done something that's super contrarian, which is one of the many reasons that I wanted to talk to you. But you mentioned that as part of your plan to build generational wealth, that you were going to do what most of the books tell you not to do. And that was actually invest beyond your backyard. Because at least I know when I got started, most of the books that I read, and I read a lot of them, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and all these others, I took away that, hey, listen, if you want to do this, you need to become a landlord and you want to invest where you live. As you know, one of the premises of this show is that's not the only way that you can, there's not just that traditional path, and you've taken that traditional path, you talked about it, and there's also a very, very, very non-traditional path. Could you maybe just talk to us about what it was about your desire to want to build generational wealth that even allowed you to have that thought to invest way beyond your backyard, like over 3 hours away?
I think initially, as a high income earner, putting money in the 401k, you're kind of maxing out, you're doing all of the right things. You're doing what they tell you to do. And then you look around and you're like, okay, what else is there? I can see that this is I'm going to grow wealthy very slow this way, slow and steady. And I'm not complaining about that. There's nothing wrong with that. We still do that. Slow and steady, it's building. But then is there something else that we can do? So we started looking into kind of workforce housing. And I'll tell this story that kind of, I don't know if I could have articulated this, Billy, before I started investing. I think initially it was, okay, here's an opportunity. I have some money. Here's an opportunity. I can possibly double my money. It'll be great. We're going to make the investment. It's people that I trust. So I'm going to make the investment. So that's probably was the initial impetus. Mm-hmm. Then as we were particularly about to invest in the first property that we invested in Greensboro, it's really when I did my first on-site due diligence and started going into every unit, looking at the AC units, looking at the condition and the paint and the kitchen and the bathrooms and the leaks and all of the different things. When you really start investigating, is this a place that I want to invest in? And I recall listening to the tenants and having the tenants really at first clam up, not want to say anything because they don't know who you are. You know, you're coming, you're going to buy the product. They don't know who you are.
Right.
They don't really trust you. They don't know what's happening. And when you're communicating with them and connecting with them and saying, no, we really do want to know what the issues are in this unit so that we can actually fix them. And they're like, you're going to fix them? You mean you want me to stay in a nice place? You're actually going to do that? And of course, once they figure out that you're real and you're going to do it, they start telling you everything that you know that's going on. But there was one unit in particular where we go in, we knock on the door. There's a young lady and she has 3 little girls, and the 3 little girls are kind of hip huggers. So they're all young. They didn't have any real fresh, clean water in the kitchen. The sink was stopped up. You could see that something had gone on upstairs. There was mold on the wall. It was just absolutely horrible. Mm. And I remember looking at my business partner and saying, we can't do this. If we are going to make this investment, then we're going to make sure that we are providing a decent place for people to live. Yeah. And he looked at me and says, yeah, you're right. And that kind of sealed the deal for me. And it also sealed the whole aspect of, I wanted to be able to invest in projects with people who were going to have that same mindset, right, to really make sure that we're providing a decent place for people to live. And that may not have necessarily answered your question as to what compelled me to invest long distance. But I would say having that in mind and thinking through what the pricing was here closer to home in terms of multifamily properties in the Richmond area. And at that time, the price points in the Greensboro area, allowed more flexibility for us to do the upgrades and for us to bring the standard up to a certain level in those units, that the price point with the investors that we had, the people that we were working with, the partners that we were working with at the time, it just gave us greater flexibility to invest in that other market than it did to invest closer to home.
Yeah. And so there are a couple of different things, right? And I love the way that you share that with us, because sometimes people believe that you need to have like this grand master plan, like you've got to have all of these major reasons. But sometimes it is as simple as the people that were running the project, you knew them, you trusted them. You knew that you had a why, which was you wanted to create generational wealth, and you were looking once again for practical experience, right? Practical knowledge. So you went from where you lived in Virginia to North Carolina, and you were able to actually understand what was there. You had the impact, and then you recognized that the person that also, or the team that you said that you trusted, they were aligned in the same vision that you had and the same values that you had. And so these different points is what really, at least if I have to kind of recap, is what it sounds to me, that allowed you to realize, okay, aside from the economic things, and that's what's a factor as well, that's what gave you the impetus to go ahead and say, look, this is another part of the project, regardless of the geographic distance from where I actually live.
Yes.
So, okay.
Yes,
So
that is correct.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. But so I do want to also come back to the concept of mindset, right? Because one of the things where you continue to excel and you're helping high paid, busy professionals on a daily basis, when at work, when at home. And sometimes, I guess one of the things that I would love for you to talk to is those busy professionals, especially that are winning at work, and they feel like they just, that's the only thing that can happen. They're so busy, they're not thinking about, okay, what are the things at home that are fulfilling that I'm not able to do or I'm not able to achieve? So maybe you could talk to us about that person that you're typically seeing, and you're also helping to help them to get clear on how they can start to find some type of an alignment there.
Well, one of the things that I often say, I say this on my podcast, I say this in general, I say this to my clients and to people, is that the greatest level of awareness is self-awareness. And for those busy professionals, they're not aware that they may be missing anything at home. They know that something is not quite right, but until it boils up to that pain point or that frustration or things start to boil over, they're not aware of all of the signs that are happening all along. It's just like with our health. There could be signs that you're having some heart issues or health issues along the way, right? Little things that happen, but if you're not aware to look out for them, you'll keep pushing on, you'll keep pushing on until something catastrophic happens. Luckily, we've been able to work with some clients to start working through and raising that level of awareness to say, okay, how are the relationships at home? When you're doing an assessment, what would you rate your relationship at home? How's the conversations with your wife? And what do you think your wife would rate those things as? And when you start pulling your family into the discussion, that helps to create greater levels of awareness. And I think that's one of the key things. And one of the pieces of advice that I will tell anybody, and this was for me when I first started investing in real estate, it's for me as I am growing and expanding my business, is to invite your loved ones and your family into the story. Don't do it alone. Invite them into what you are doing. So that means that you are having that discussion. You are mentioning to them what's going on. You're asking for some input. And they may not be able to provide input on everything, but don't, I would say, work to include them in the process. The more you can do that, I think the better off you're going to be.
Really hope you're enjoying today's conversation. And once again, if you're an accredited investor and you are tired of getting crushed by your W-2 taxes and you're looking for a new way to gain more control over your freedom to choose, go to firstgencp.com/invest. Once again, that's firstgencp.com/invest. Now let's get back to today's conversation. So James, a couple of things, and I love both of those ideas. I just think about myself because I know when I was so focused, I did 9.5 years. I was working two jobs and I was doing all these different things. And there were definitely moments where I was so focused on me that I would not have recognized it. And so, which I love that you point that out, because I think, I know that there are a number of people that are very similar. And so I'm just imagining the conversation that you have, and it's about helping people to become self-aware. But maybe, and I'll just be the example, for that really high-paid, busy professional that's out there today, because they're maybe not aware, do they start to become aware, or would you see that they're aware when you're asking questions, not necessarily that they can answer, but I guess maybe the question I would have is, what percentage of those people that you sit down with are actually not even able to answer the question of what their spouse would think or what their children would think because they're so busy?
Very little people that I sit down with will be able to answer that question the first time that we have an encounter.
Okay.
The first time that we have an encounter. They will not be able to answer that. And a lot of times, even though those people are winning at work, the subtle issues that are niggling away at them at home show up in different conversations in different ways at work as well, because you're one person You don't necessarily have a work Billy and a home Billy. I don't have a work James and a home James. It's James. And so the issues that tend to bubble up will show up everywhere. They show up differently, but they show up everywhere. But to kind of get more towards your question, by asking during the coaching process, by asking those questions, what you are really trying to do is increase that level of self-awareness of the client. And the key is asking the questions without judgment, and really trying and coming from a position of curiosity to say, I really want to understand, I really want to get a better understanding of this. How is this working? How, are you inviting your spouse into this conversation? Hey, how have you been doing in terms of the other family obligations? Do you guys do family vacations? Are there any kind of birthday parties or other things that are going on? How are you balancing the needs of your family and the needs of your job? And a lot of times for those people, they're saying, well, my job is to provide for my family. And that's what they think. They think my job is to provide for my family. And I say that the most precious resource that you have is your time. So let's look at how are you investing your time with your family, because money comes and goes, but your time, the time that you spend with them that's the thing that's priceless.
Yeah. So in being able to, and I love how you said that earlier, how the way that you invest your time with your family or with your friends, and it is the one equalizer, because whether you are someone who has no money or you are, I guess today when we're recording this, Elon Musk is the most wealthiest person or has the most money, at least on record.
Yeah.
Everyone has 24 hours. So it really is a critical asset, because it doesn't, time doesn't care. Right? You can't replenish it. Once it's gone, it's gone. And so maybe you could talk to us about some of the things, because I have a feeling that there is a large portion of fear of maybe recognizing things that went off track and not wanting to deal with that. And rather than dealing with it, you kind of let it go. But so maybe, I guess, to what extent do you see that fear plays a role in not really being able to win or feeling like you're winning at work or at home?
Oh, I think it's huge. Fear plays a huge role, because we don't necessarily want to look in the mirror and see a person that is not living up to what we know we can be. So so fear drives that. So what do? If we don't look at it, we say it doesn't exist. In a sense, if I don't look at that situation, then I'm doing okay. If I don't look at it, I'm okay. And it's not true. That's not true. And, one of probably, I would say one of the most interesting things, Billy, in working with people is you cannot deal with what you refuse to take up. If you don't grab hold of it and acknowledge it, and really say that this is an issue that I need to deal with, how can you ever expect for it to actually be fixed, for the situation to be rectified? So you have to be able to recognize that and see it. So I take clients through a process, called mirror moments, where you see yourself for who you are, not for who you project to be. Because we live in a world full of projections. We're going to project to be this type of person. We're going to project to be this type of leader. But when you move past those things that we project, you really want to see who you are, because that's the person that is going to help you move and grow into who you want to become, not the projection.
Yeah. And that's helping us to understand exactly how you are, how you're helping someone just, once again, get to that level of self-awareness, because when you are aware of what is happening, then that is what typically allows you to start to take action, or take the best action for yourself, or it's going to move you towards your goals. And it
works. And I would say, Billy, it works both ways. Like being able to, that mirror moments process work both ways, because there are people who are doing great at both, right? They're doing great. They're winning at work, winning at home, but they have this negative attitude, this negative mindset that they can never do enough they're not good. And that tends to take them down a path of lower productivity and lower engagement because they're thinking I'm never good enough. But when you're able to pull back again, that projection, because in this sense, they're projecting a negative self. But when you pull that back and say, let's actually look at what's going on. Let's look at how you're spending your time. Let's look at how you're investing your time and your resources. Let's look at the things that you're doing and the results that you're getting. You know what? You look in the mirror. I think that's a good person that you want to see that's in the mirror. So it works both ways.
Fantastic. So I appreciate you breaking that down. I've got a couple questions before we get into the Going Long Final Three, which
okay.
But there's a couple things. So number one, as we're thinking about the process that you take someone on, just in general from coaching, because I think this is something that's important. Well, the first thing is somebody's listening to us today. Someone's running on the treadmill and thinking, wow, you know what? James is actually speaking to a lot of the things that I've been really feeling and thinking. And even though I'm not an engineer, this guy's really making a lot of sense. I've had this thought. So where would someone, like, kind of, where do they take the first step to realize, like, hey, you know what? I actually want to have a conversation. I want to have a further conversation about this. Or is this really me? Sounds like this kind of coaching thing, this could actually help me to start to live the best version of myself? What would you say to that person?
First thing I would say, use the link that's going to be in these show notes to get in contact with me so that we can talk. Typically the process that I take clients through, we'll have what I call a discovery session, where the whole point of that session is just to talk about where you are, what you may see your needs as being, because I have to evaluate whether or not I think you're going to be a good fit for what I provide, because you may not be a good fit for me. And if you're not, I'm going to let you know. And I'm also going to point you to some people that may be a better fit for you. Because in the end of the day, it's about providing value to the people that are reaching out and want help to connect. But for those people that do, fit within the kind of the framework that I think I can help, one of the initial programs or things that we'll do is I'll take you through the engineer's blueprint. And within the engineer's blueprint, we're talking about really 4 phases. The first phase is to determine what really matters to you. And as part of that process, we ask people what matters to them. They will tell you all of these different things. My family matters, giving the charities, matters, spending time. They say all of these different things. I say, okay, all right. Now let's look at your calendar. How are you spending your time? We get back to this resource of your time.
Yep.
And if outside of your 9 to 5, you are not investing time in those things that you say is important to you, we look at your calendar and determine based on your time what's really important to you, because our actions speak much more loudly than our words. And this is not, again, no judgment. It's just facts. But once you have that facts, it provides the foundation to be able to say, this is where you are now. Now I want you to describe to me where you want to be. Where do you want to be? And then the next phase is to really visualize the life that you want. The third phase is, now we know the life that you want. We know where you are. Now let's design a plan. Not just goals, but an actual plan with tactics to help you achieve the life that you want. And then the fourth phase is execution, because if you don't execute, nothing's going to happen. And so that's the general process that I will take clients through. And then everything else focuses more on execution, and we iterate that process, because you may not be able to address everything that a person may want to improve within their life or want to achieve within the first go around. So you keep iterating on that process and keep adding value and keep improving lives.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate you helping us understand that 4-step process. And, just to be very clear, so this is a process orchestrated by a PhD engineer. And this is something that anyone, you don't have to be an engineer to have this process, to be a part of this process. You can be in any type of professional career. Okay. All right. Perfect.
That is correct. What I found, Billy, is when I tried to market to everybody, nobody heard me.
Yep.
But when I started to looking at what is my unique proposition and thinking of being an engineer with an engineering background, being a certified coach, and then starting to say, well, you know what? I'm going to put these things together and I'm going to focus my practice on helping engineers win at work and at home. I'm not going to tell you how many people will reach out via email, social media, responses to the podcast and say, I'm not an engineer, but I get value from what you're doing. It's like, great. You know, I want you to get value because, as I mentioned before, at the end of the day, it's all about providing value.
That's it. And I know you are very much focused on that. And I just wanted to keep that clear for everybody that's part of the Going Long family, because we have so many people, especially a lot of salespeople. And, you know, I resonate. A lot of the things you talked about definitely makes sense. I went through an exercise where I looked at my calendar and said, okay, that these are the things that are important to me. When I looked at my calendar, it was like there was this complete incongruence. And so having those kind of mirror moments are the things that absolutely can help you to then start to take the corrective action. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. James, can you just give us a real quick, and I know we're going to talk about it in just a second, but can you tell us what your website is?
winatworkandhome.com.
Winatwork.
And home.com.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
So we will, and we'll include that. Yeah. So don't worry, everybody. Yes, if you're running on the treadmill or cooking, or you're in the car, or you're on a plane, don't worry. It'll be in the show notes. All you have to do is click and you can get in touch. It'll be real easy. So here's the thing though, James, it is time for us to get to the Going Long Final 3, man. And already, like the time just blows by. The thing is, I never ask any of our special guests, and today you are our special guest. I will never ask you to go along Final 3 unless you tell me that you're ready. So my question to you is, are you ready?
I'm as ready as I'm going to be.
I know you're ready, man. You are ready. So here we go. So we started with you over on the East Coast of the United States.
Yes.
In that wonderful state of Virginia. And now I'd like to bring things back to this, or over to this side of the pond. Because as you know, I love Barcelona and I've been living here in Europe for the last 21 years. Yes. So could you help me and the entire Going Long family understand, what is your favorite European city that you've either visited or still on your bucket list to visit?
Ooh. I want to say there are two, actually.
Ooh.
Two.
Okay.
And these are places that
Let's hear where they are.
I had the pleasure to visit with my wife. So there are other memories attached to this. One is Paris, France. We really enjoyed being in Paris, walking around. I mean, I must have walked the soles off of my feet, going all of the different places. In Paris, it was a great experience. All of the different sites, the people were lovely. The croissants were very good. I don't even eat a whole lot of bread and carbs, but it was just fantastic. The other was probably the most recent, a few years ago, where we visited Valencia, Spain. That was really nice.
You get extra points because you just said Valencia, so that's double extra points. But even though you got double extra points, you still have to pick one. Dun, dun, dun,
well, Valencia, Spain. I would say Spain.
All right. You can take Valencia. Actually, I lived in Valencia. Did we talk about that? I don't know if we ever talked about
we didn't.
Okay, well, I have to tell you, that's a whole nother story. And everybody wants to get to the second question. So I got to ask you the next question of the Going Long Final 3, James. Here is the thing. So this is one of the things that I have actually been very, very fortunate to learn and recognize because of the experience that I've had with lots of very successful people. And I would consider you to be someone who's extremely successful as well. Mm-hmm. A lot of the lives that you've continued to impact and the positive things that you continue to do. And I hope that you would also agree with me that one of the things that happens with really successful people, one of the reasons that they tend to be so successful is because they, unlike most people, when they put a plan together, they go out, they execute, they get everything right the first time, which then allows them to go forward. Did I just say that? Don't worry, James. Don't worry, man. It's just a joke. It's just James is suffering for me. It's like, hey, no. Check out the video version, everybody. You're such a great guy, man. You're such a great guy. Of course, nobody gets things perfectly.
My face probably said the whole thing. I said, did he just say that? Gets it right the first time? I don't know. I didn't get it right the first time.
Exactly. So this is why everybody, you should check out the video version. But anyway, no, it's a joke. Everybody in the Going Long family, they all know about it. They knew it was coming. You just didn't know it was coming. Of course.
Okay.
Nobody gets anything right the first, or very few times you get things right the first time. And the reality is those that are successful typically make 20 to 50 times more mistakes than anybody else.
Yes.
The reality is though, and this is no joke, like the first one was a joke, this is no joke. Anytime someone who is successful either has a relevant learning opportunity, mistake, failure event, whatever you want to call it, that thing that happens that didn't go as planned, every single time that it's relevant, James, without a doubt, they stop, they take note of what happened, and then they put different strategies, tactics, and actions in place to minimize the probability of that exact same thing happening again. So I don't necessarily want you to think about the mistake or the failure event or the learning opportunity or however you want to call it. What I would love for you to share with us is that one lesson that you know is going to be key for the Going Long family today to continue to be able to move forward faster and get closer to our common or individual goals.
Yeah, I would say the one lesson is make sure that all of your partners that you're involved in, whatever you're doing, are aligned in your values and over communicate what the expectations are. Because you can get into situations where 2 of the 3 people or 3 of the 5 people are on the same page and understand where, the values and where things are going. But if those other 2 people that are on that team, that are in that partnership, are not values aligned, you're going to have issues. And so it shows up. I got burned on, a project that way, and I won't never say never, but I take steps now to make sure or to try to guard against that happening.
Okay. So making sure that you are aligned in terms of the values, and also too importantly, making sure that you are communicating and overly communicating expectations. So I appreciate you.
And I would say the expectations and the business strategy, particularly if you're thinking about a real estate deal, if you're talking about long distance investing, you can have the values aligned, but if the business strategy is slightly different, then you're going to have miscommunication issues that happen.
Yeah. And I would even say that it goes beyond just investing and was just good practice in general, whether that's at work, at home, investing.
Yes.
Be able to overly communicate the expectations and ensure that there's a common understanding. So I appreciate that. And then this is the last one. I know this is going to be very, very, very challenging for you because you love to read. And so there is no, the thing that I would love for you to share with us, what is the one book, whatever type of book, that you would like to recommend to the Going Long family today?
Ooh. I think about Atomic Habits. I think about Tiny Habits. But the one that comes to mind is The One Thing. And that's really because the whole premise is, what is the one thing that you can focus on that's going to make the other things that are on the other top things on your list easier to obtain or obsolete? So it really kind of focuses you to become very efficient in how you use your time and your focus.
Love that. The One Thing. So we will also make sure that we include that with Mr. Keller, I believe, and his co-author. So we will include that. We'll have the link for everybody there. Dr. James Bryant, let me just say that I cannot believe how quickly these conversations literally fly by. We're talking in the very beginning about aquatic Zumba class with your family, and also learning new things about cycling. And you were kind enough to help us understand from if we just kind of pick it up just from the investing things and then your desire to create generational wealth, not only to have the theory, but then also to take that into practice, starting in your own backyard, recognizing that it was about building teams and being able to team effectively with those people that you trust, that are aligned in the same values with you. And then also, once again, going from what you'd taken locally and then being able to then make a positive impact in the areas, in the neighborhoods, the families where you decided to invest your time as well as your capital with your teams. You've then continued to have success in the corporate environment, and as well as recognizing that there is a specific need to help people understand how they can win, not just at work, also at home. And you continue to add value. You've talked us through your 4-step process. You've helped us to understand, yes, there's a focus because of your engineering background, your PhD, and your specific knowledge. And you're helping people that are in that profession as well as outside of that profession. The most important thing is there's a desire to want to win at work and win at home. And so with that, and I know you've kind of talked to us a little bit about it before, can you help me? And because everybody's just thinking, yeah, Billy, just ask him the question, man. And so everybody wants to know, what is the best way for the Going Long family to find out more about you, how you can continue to help them and just be able to make a real life connection?
I would say that the best way is probably going to be to connect with me on LinkedIn. And so that'll be there. And I would also encourage you to take a listen to the Engineer Your Success podcast with Dr. James Bryant, because you'll get a mix of my philosophies and, where just my approach to different topics, as well as wonderful guests that we have on our show.
Yes, I can attest to that. I would say Dr. James Bryant was kind enough to also invite me there. I would definitely recommend to everybody as part of the Going Long family to go over, get some great insights, well-founded insights, as well as, especially because I know you're interested in wanting to win at home, at work, and vice versa. It's a great place to find out more information. So, you know what? And one other thing, Going Long family, when you reach out to Dr. James Bryant on LinkedIn, make sure that you leave him a personalized invitation. That way it's going to make the conversation between the two of you much easier, because he already knows that you've invested time listening to us here on the Going Long podcast. So with that, listen, James, thank you so very much. I really appreciate you investing your time with me and the entire Going Long family. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, man. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Perfect. Listen, if you give me like 15 seconds and just wrap things up, and then we'll be out of here. Going Long family, I don't know what else to say. I mean, James, he just left everything here for you. He gave you a clear 4-step process to follow. He's given you a way to reach out to him on his website. We've included the link here. And also, too, one of the things that he and I both feel strongly about is today's conversation. Make sure that you listen to it again. Share it with your friends and family and have a conversation about it. That's the way that you're going to go from the theory to the practice. You're going to start to get out the ideas and really exchange. And he's made himself very available to you. Check him out on LinkedIn, personal invite, as well as check him out over on his website and continue the conversation there. So while you're doing all those things, I'll be here preparing for the next conversation. So go out and make it a great day. And thank you very, very much. Once again, today's conversation was sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners. If you want to find out more, go to firstgencp.com/invest.